You guys also talk about like, if you're not spending $1,000 a week in leads, and maybe your philosophy is a tad different. I just heard this recently from somebody else, that you're part-time.
Yeah, my exact thing is if you're not running 30 appointments a week.
Yeah, you don't relate it to a dollar
part-time.
amount. You relate it
appointments.
to an appointments. Yes.
Yeah, and the same thing. Again, I do this to everybody.
If you're not running 30.
Yeah, if
you're
you're
not booking 30 or running 30.
We can do it either. I think booking 30 bare minimum, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Again, you book 30, how many are gonna be there?
20.
Correct.
At most.
Correct. How long's your average appointment?
An hour.
Okay, so we got 20 hours there.
Yeah.
Okay. How many appointments can you book an hour, you think?
4.
Okay, so you got,
I don't know.
what's that, 6, 7, 8 hours of dialing?
For 30?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just call it 8.
Yeah, we'll round up to 10 because the math is easier.
There you go.
Okay, so we got 20 hours in the field, seeing people.
Yep.
10 hours on the phone. That's 30 hours, dude.
Yes.
And you go, but I drive a lot. Dude, I drove a lot when I was an accountant. I didn't get to count that time towards my schedule.
That's good.
Does that make sense?
They didn't pay you for that.
Correct. Now, you want to count it, and I ain't mad at you. Knock yourself out. I just choose not to count that.
Correct.
So for me, 30 appointments.
30 hours.
I was running 30 appointments, and I would argue I wasn't working a full-time schedule. Now, I was running 30 appointments and recruiting. Buckle up. That was a lot of hours.
Now you're up to 60.
But again, you're running 15. 10 are going to be there?
Yeah.
That's so 10 hours.
10 hours.
And even if it took 15, you the same 10 hours.
3 hours.
Even if, let's say 10,
4 hours,
extreme.
10 hours, yeah.
You know, for me, where I go, all right, because the agents mess up and they go, yeah, I dialed all day. And I'm like, oh.
Well, that was the story you mentioned in the office a few weeks ago, and I loved.
Yeah. And I said, all right, how many dials did you make? What's the average? Do you know? Average answer I get's like 120.
Yeah.
Right? 150. I don't usually hear 612.
No.
Right? And
that's pretty rare.
I was talking to a guy that I did another call with a group where he had dialed 400 times in a day, and everybody else watching was like, oh my gosh. I was like, dude, how long does a dial take?
1 minute.
1 minute. Okay. And with him, I was like, all right, so 400 dials, that's 400 minutes. So you got 60, 120, 240, 480 is 8 hours.
Yep.
I was like, congrats, you worked a full-time day. Why is everybody jumping around like that's amazing? Like I worked 8 hours days doing accounting and no one was like, oh my gosh, look how much work you did.
Yeah, you actually worked the whole time you were here.
So
he should get an award.
Yeah. So if you go like I did 120 dials, I'm like, no offense, that's 2 hours of dialing.
Yeah.
I've worked jobs that track me. I've had 2 jobs that track activity.
Yes.
And in those jobs, they would have given me 2 hours credit.
A lot of marketing companies actually time track for projects.
Now, if you drag that out 8 hours, that doesn't mean you dialed all day.
Right.
You just took all day to dial, and they're very different. You know. So again, I start looking at you're running 15 appointments. You're only seeing 10 people. That's 10 hours. You make 120 dials in the week. That's only 2 hours. So you work 12 hours. It's literally part time.
Yeah.
And no agent will argue they're home all the time, or if they're on the road, they're sitting in parking lots. Yes. They're not active.
Right.
You know. And again, I always say if it's this being your only job, doesn't qualify it as your full-time job.
That's good.
Full-time is 30 plus appointments a week. And if you're part-time, that's okay. And I'll tell you, this is the greatest part-time gig ever. Yes, because you can make a lot of money part-time. But don't trick yourself into saying you're full-time just because it's your only job.
Yeah.
You know?
That's phenomenal. I'd love to also talk through, like there's one piece where you talk through that you were upset and you were talking to Killamant. And something flipped, right? And I'd love to talk through that story a little bit if you could, because there was something. Because a lot of people are going to ask, okay, John was subpar, average, whatever. Mm-hmm. Then he wrote almost $500,000 in a year, and you were writing 100, I think,
issuing about 150. I made 130.
Issue about 150. Yeah. Then he triples.
Yeah.
All because of like something clicked, right?
Yeah.
What clicked?
I mean, it was a combination of one understanding that I was working part-time.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality was I'd start dialing at 10. She used to have to go to work at 10. So I'd get up at 9:30. She'd get me up while she was about ready to walk out the door. So I'd get up.
Wow.
9:30.
I can't imagine. I can't see you.
Yeah.
How old were you then?
35, 36.
No way.
Yeah.
35, sleep until 9:30.
Yeah, I was self-employed now, man. I used to have to get up I used to have to leave my house at like 5.
I think we're about to wake some people up on this podcast, by the way, because there's people out there that is exactly their story.
Yeah, and I'd watch SportsCenter a couple times sometimes. I'd book my appointments later because I didn't want to have to get up at 6 to get ready to be to an appointment at 8. Right? I used to do laundry back then. That's the only time in our marriage I did laundry was that year. You know.
Do you miss that?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, her mom does it now,
Yeah,
so
okay,
she don't do it either.
Steph's like, I don't do it either. Yeah.
She does get my clothes ready.
You know what's funny is we do have a lady that not only cleans house every week, but she also comes and does laundry every week too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
Because it's like, dude, I mean, it's helping somebody else out. It's helping us out. And do I really want Lauren to spend a bunch of her time doing that kind of stuff? If we can afford to help it, not really, you know?
And some people go, it's nice you can afford it. If you stopped doing it and dialed more, you'd be able to afford it too.
100%.
You know? And
100%.
so that year I really started to grasp because I started putting myself around more successful people. I was tired of being around people that were like me. I was tired of it, dude.
Yeah. And 150 grand, just to stop, by the way, for a lot of people listening or a lot of IMOs or a lot of carriers, et cetera, like no matter what your situation is, that's typically really good, by the way, right? I mean, my comp was lower. I was at Mutual back in the day, Career Shop. I made 117. I probably issued like 250, right? In like 8 months. Well, compared to what you're about to talk through is freaking nothing. But 150 at a lot of places, they're like, you're getting an award and they're praising you and they're high-fiving you and they're having you speak to the team. Like, you know what I mean?
It was respectable in the industry for sure.
It was.
You know, a lot of people were giving me praise, but our life didn't get to change. I didn't get to do that
you didn't
much.
Feel it.
No. I mean, yeah, I can pay my credit cards off a little faster now. And
well, by the time you take out like leads.
Correct.
And just bills and stuff, it's like, what are you really
cracked
left
100
with?
grand. I just cracked 100 grand. 100 grand ain't a lot of money in this world.
No.
It doesn't.
No.
You don't get the wow factor.
No. Once you make it, you're like, dang, this is
not
what do
quite
you
get?
Yeah.
You pay off your credit cards,
I
you get
blew
another
it all.
car, and it's done.
Yes.
I mean, you got no more money.
No.
So it goes quick. You know. So for me that year, I really one of my plan was to get around more successful people that were killing it in the industry because I knew I could figure it out eventually. I knew I could do what others were doing.
Yep.
So I decided to start putting myself in proximity of these people and learning from them and taking what they were saying and implementing it. And even though it was hard, Steph and I sat down and talked. And I'm like, I need to change. I want to change. These people are doing way more than I am, and I'm ready. And she gave me the full go ahead.
That's awesome.
So in that stage, I started talking to some people that helped my mindset realize that I wasn't running a full-time schedule. I was dipping my toe in the industry.
Yep.
You know, and I was expecting phenomenal. Now, again, my threshold was 40 grand. I was making more than I was used to making. Right. So we were living a little better. It was easier.
Well, when you issued 150, had you stopped the accounting job at that point?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So the end of
because you're making obviously a lot more than you were at the accounting place.
I did a year part-time.
Okay.
And I made like 50, 60 grand on insurance. So part-time.
And then you're like,
by the way, to be clear,
you can do math pretty easy.
Yeah. When I was part-time, I was running 10 or 15 appointments a week on top of my full-time job.
Wow.
So you take away the full-time job and keep the same schedule.
You know, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. I actually want to stop because I want to keep going, but I want to stop for just a brief second because you mentioned something really good. I always wondered, how was I so productive, like at 20, being in college, taking 21 credit hours, playing basketball, all this stuff, and still booking 15 appointments a week.
Yeah.
Right? And it's because if you want to make time, you will. And also a lot of times when you don't have a lot of time, you actually become a more organized, productive person anyway. Yeah. Where when you have a lot of time on your hands, you end up blowing it doing stupid stuff.
Here's what I always say to people about time, dude. Like, if you work 40 hours, there's 168 hours in the week.
Yeah.
Okay. If you work 40, okay, and you sleep an 8-hour day, I'm going to round up, that's 60 hours sleep, 40 hours work.
Mm-hmm.
You still have 68 hours left to your life. You sleep 8, which you shouldn't be if you're broke.
Yeah. And
you're working 40, which most aren't. There's still 68 hours left.
That's a lot.
Like, what are you doing? Y'all are doing something with that time.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Now you just got to, it's not that you don't have the time. You aren't making the time.
Correct.
You're allowing other things to be prioritized over that.
That's so good.
You know?
Wow. Doing something with it.
Yeah.
But it may not be actually impacting your life in any way.
Yep. and you could be working, but you aren't actually productive during that work time. Just because you're sitting in your chair, don't, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
checking pending for 3 hours. I mean, it's not effective.
Prospecting on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, so there's plenty of time, man. And I had to own that, and I had to realize I was being a little bit lazy at times and not working my hardest. Like if my children were on the line, I certainly would have put in more time. I'd have been up earlier. Heck, I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go to an accounting job, pay me $40,000.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden I'm a self-employed. I'm sleeping in 4 or 5 more hours. And that was the reality,
If you love this video, I got another one that you're gonna love. I got a video just to your right here. Click on that, it's gonna be amazing. You're gonna love it, and I'll see you in there. Welcome back to the Insurance Truth. Dude, I haven't done one of these in years. Okay, I've actually get asked about these every once in a while. So John Wetmore's in town hanging out, right? Dude, I gotta get in the gym, bro. Look at you, Phil.